Aliens sent a SOS signal. They didn't expect the Deathworlder fleet. The emergency broadcast crackled through every communication channel in the Viridian sector. Elder Nira's voice shook as she spoke into the transmitter, her translucent fingers trembling against the controls. Behind her, explosions lit up the sky of Varus 9. The screams of her people echoed through the colony's thin walls. This is Elder Nira of the Lakish Unity on planet Varus 9. We are under attack. The Krath have broken through our defenses. They are killing everyone. Please, anyone who can hear this message, we need help. We have no weapons. We have no soldiers. We are dying. She paused, catching her breath in the thin air. Another explosion rocked the building. Dust fell from the ceiling. Through the window, she could see Krath warriors moving through the streets, their massive forms crushing everything in their path. The Lakesh were a gentle people. They had never known war. Their bodies were delicate, built for a world with low gravity and soft winds. The Krath were the opposite. They were bred for conquest. We are broadcasting on all frequencies. If there is anyone out there who believes in mercy, who believes in protecting the innocent, please help us. We cannot fight. We can only run, and we are running out of places to hide. Nira ended the transmission and looked at her assistant, a young Lakesh named Wela. The girl's large eyes were filled with tears. Will anyone come? Wela asked. Nira wanted to lie. She wanted to offer hope. But she had lived long enough to know the truth. The galaxy was filled with civilized species who spoke beautiful words about peace and justice. But when violence came knocking, those same species looked away. War was expensive. War was dangerous. It was easier to send sympathy than soldiers. I don't know, Nira said quietly, but we had to try. 3,000 light years away, Captain Doyen sat in his command chair aboard the UESN Indomitable. He was a tall man with broad shoulders and dark hair cut short in military fashion. His uniform was crisp, his posture relaxed. He had been reading reports about supply routes when the communication officer called out. Captain, we're receiving a distress signal. It's broadcasting on multiple frequencies. Audio only. Put it through, Doyen said. Elder Nira's voice filled the bridge. Every officer stopped what they were doing and listened. When the message ended, silence hung in the air. Doyen looked at his crew. They all wore the same expression. Anger, determination. Get me Admiral Hejan, Doyen said. Priority 1. The Admiral's face appeared on the main screen within seconds. She was a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and gray streaking through her black hair. She had been in the Earth Space Navy for 30 years. She had seen wars, disasters, and the worst humanity had to offer, but she had also seen the best. I heard the broadcast, Hyejin said before Doyen could speak. How fast can you get there? 48 hours if we push the engines. The Viridian sector is on the edge of known space. Do it. I'm dispatching the 3rd Fleet to support you. 12 ships total. This is a rescue operation, but if the Krath want to fight, we'll give them one. Understood, Admiral. What about authorization from Earth Command? Hyejin smiled grimly. I'll worry about the paperwork. You just get those people to safety. That's what we do, Captain. Someone calls for help, we answer. Doyen nodded. Yes, ma'am. The connection ended. Doyen turned to his crew. All hands battle stations. Navigation, plot a course to Varus 9. Engineering, I need maximum power to the hyperspace drive. We're going in hot. The bridge erupted into controlled chaos. Officers moved to their stations. Alarms chimed softly. The Indomitable was a warship built in Earth's orbital yards. She was massive, heavily armored, and carried enough firepower to level a small moon. Her crew was trained for the worst possible scenarios. Earth had taught humanity many lessons, and one of them was this: always be ready for a fight. Lieutenant Jiho, the ship's medical officer, approached Doyen's chair. Captain, do we know anything about the Lakish? Medical information, biology, that sort of thing. Pull up the database. They're a registered species with the Galactic Council. Peaceful, herbivorous, low-gravity world. Their bones are hollow like birds. They can't handle much physical stress, Jiho nodded slowly. So they're fragile. Very. Which makes what the Krath are doing even worse. And the Krath? Warrior culture. They respect strength, despise weakness. They've been expanding their territory for the last decade. The Council keeps issuing warnings, but no one wants to actually stop them. Jiho's jaw tightened. Then we will. Doyen looked at the young officer. Jiho was only 26, fresh out of the academy 5 years ago. But like all humans, he had grown up on a world that tried to kill him every day. Earth had hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanoes, and predators that could tear a person apart. Humanity had learned to be tough. They had learned to be stubborn. And they had learned that sometimes the only way to stop a bully was to hit back harder. Yes, Doyun said quietly. We will. The Indomitable jumped to hyperspace. Behind her, 11 more ships followed. The third fleet was moving. On Varus 9, the situation grew worse. The Krath were methodical. They swept through the colony sector by sector, forcing the Lakesh into smaller and smaller areas. Elder Nira had moved her people into the underground shelters, but she knew it was only a matter of time. The Krath would dig them out eventually. Elder Nira, Wella said, her voice barely a whisper. I checked the communication logs. 27 species received our distress call, 27. Do you know how many responded? How many? 3. The Quarren sent a message saying they would bring the matter before the council. The Vexen offered to accept refugees if we could reach their space. And one species we've never heard of before. They call themselves humans. They said they're coming. Nira felt something strange in her chest. Hope. It was dangerous to hope, but she couldn't help it. Humans, what do we know about them? Wella pulled up the limited information in their database. Not much. They're new to the galactic community, only made first contact 15 years ago. Their home planet is listed as... She paused, her eyes widening. Their home planet is classified as a Class 12 Deathworld. The color drained from Nira's face. Deathworlds were planets so hostile that they should be uninhabitable. Class 12 was the highest rating. It meant a world where everything was trying to kill you. High gravity, violent weather, dangerous predators, deadly diseases. Only the toughest species could evolve on such worlds. And those species were usually terrifying. What have we done? Nira whispered. We called for help and Deathworlders answered. Maybe that's good, Wella said, though she sounded uncertain. Maybe we need someone dangerous to fight the Krath. Or maybe we've invited something worse into our home. Above the planet, a Krath scout ship detected something on long-range sensors. 12 ships dropping out of hyperspace. Large ships, warships, the scout commander sneered. Someone had actually come to help the weaklings. It didn't matter. The Krath fleet was more than capable of handling any interference. He opened a channel to Warlord Vectar on the surface. My lord, we have incoming vessels. 12 ships, unknown design. Destroy them, Vectar said simply. Let whoever sent them know that the Krath do not surrender territory. Yes, my lord. Sir, the ships are broadcasting an identification signal. They claim to be from a planet called Earth. I don't care if they're from the void itself. Kill them all. The scout commander smiled. This would be easy. These humans, whoever they were, had made a fatal mistake. They had come to fight the Krath, and no one beat the Krath in battle, no one. Aliens sent a S.O.S. signal. They didn't expect the Deathworlder fleet. The human fleet appeared in the Varus 9 system like ghosts materializing from the void. One moment the space was empty. The next, 12 massive warships hung in orbit, their hulls gleaming under the local star's light. They were unlike anything the Lakesh had ever seen. Where most galactic ships were elegant and smooth, these vessels looked brutal. Thick armor plating, heavy weapons bristling from every surface. They looked like they were built to take damage and keep fighting. Elder Nira stood in the underground shelter's communication center, staring at the screen. Her people had gathered around her, hundreds of frightened Lakesh hoping for salvation. When the first clear image of a human ship appeared, someone gasped. Those are warships, Wella whispered. Real warships. Nira had seen many vessels in her long life. Trade ships, science vessels. Even the Krath ships, despite their aggressive purpose, had a certain sleek quality. These human ships were different. They looked angry. They looked like they were designed by people who understood violence intimately. A communication request flashed on the screen. Nira accepted it with shaking fingers. A human face appeared. It was a woman, younger than Nira had expected. She had dark hair pulled back in a neat style and wore a crisp uniform. Her eyes were kind, but there was something behind that kindness. Something hard, something that had seen terrible things and survived. Elder Nira, I'm Ambassador Minji of the United Earth Space Navy. We received your distress call. We're here to help. Nira's translator processed the words instantly. The human spoke with calm confidence. as if arriving in a war zone was perfectly normal. Ambassador Minji, thank you for coming. We didn't think anyone would answer. Someone should have answered immediately, Minji said, and there was an edge to her voice now. What's happening to your people is wrong. We won't let it continue. The Krath are everywhere. They have thousands of soldiers on the surface. Their fleet is in orbit. You only have 12 ships. Minji smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was the smile of someone who knew a secret. Elder Nira, 12 Earth Navy ships is more than enough. Trust me. But I need to ask you some questions about your people. Medical questions. We want to help, but we need to understand your biology first. Of course, what do you need to know? What's your planet's gravity? 0.3 standard. Minji nodded, making notes. Atmospheric pressure? 0.4 standard. Average temperature? 15 degrees on your scale. Minji looked up from her notes. For just a moment, Nira saw something flash across the human's face. It might have been surprise. It might have been pity. Elder Nira, I need to be honest with you. Your environment is very different from ours. Earth has gravity more than 3 times stronger than yours. Our air pressure is more than twice what you breathe. Our average temperature is higher. We evolved as persistence hunters on a Class 12 death world. The shelter went silent. Every Lakesh was staring at the screen now. Wayla made a small frightened sound. You're from a death world, Nira said slowly. You're predators. Yes, Minji said simply. But that doesn't mean we're your enemies. It means we're very good at fighting other predators. And the Krath are predators, aren't they? Nira didn't know what to say. She had called for help and help had arrived. But what kind of help? Were these human saviors or just a different kind of threat? I know you're scared, Minji continued, her voice gentler now. I know this is overwhelming, but I promise you, Elder Nira, we didn't travel 48 hours straight to hurt you. We came because it's the right thing to do. Will you let us help? Nira looked at her people. She saw their fear. She also saw their hope. They were dying. The Krath were killing them. What choice did they have? Yes, Nira said. Please help us. Good. We're going to send a shuttle down with some of our people. They'll need to meet with you and your leaders. Can you prepare a landing zone? The Krath control the surface. Not for long, Minji said. Stand by, Elder Nira. Things are about to change. The connection ended. Nira stood there, trembling. Around her, the Lakesh began talking all at once, their voices high and nervous. Deathworlders, someone said. We invited Deathworlders. What choice did we have? Another replied. Maybe they'll kill the Krath and then kill us. Or maybe they'll save us. Nira raised her hand for silence. We wait. We watch. And we hope that we made the right choice. In orbit, things were happening fast. Captain Doyen stood on the bridge of the Indomitable watching the tactical display. The Krath fleet had moved to intercept 23 Krath warships against 12 human vessels. On paper, it looked like bad odds. But Doyen had studied the Krath. He knew their tactics. They relied on overwhelming force and intimidation. They had never fought an enemy that refused to be intimidated. Krath commander is hailing us, the communication officer said. Put him on screen. The Krath who appeared was massive. He had thick, scaled skin the color of old blood. His eyes were small and cruel. He wore armor that looked like it was made from the bones of his enemies. Human vessel, you have entered Krath territory. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed. Doyen leaned back in his chair. He looked relaxed, almost bored. This is Captain Doyen of the UESN Indomitable. We're here on a humanitarian mission. The Lakesh are under our protection now. You need to leave. The Krath commander stared at him. Then he laughed. It was a harsh, ugly sound. You think you can protect them? You think 12 ships can stand against the Krath armada? We will crush you. We will grind your ships to dust. And then we will finish what we started with the Lakesh. You can try, Doyen said calmly. But I should warn you, humans don't lose often. And when we do lose, we learn. We adapt. We come back stronger. So I'm going to give you one chance. Withdraw now, and this ends peacefully. We do not withdraw, the Krath roared. We do not surrender, we are Krath. Okay, Doyen said. Just remember I tried to be nice. He made a cutting gesture. The screen went dark. Doyen turned to his weapons officer. Target their lead ships, fire on my mark. Captain, they outnumber us 2-1. I can count, Lieutenant. They also don't know what they're dealing with, fire. The Indomitable opened fire. Her railguns launched projectiles at a fraction of light speed. Her missiles streaked through space, leaving trails of fire. Her energy weapons lit up the darkness. The other human ships followed suit. The space around Varus 9 exploded into violence. The Krath returned fire, but something was wrong. Their weapons, designed to penetrate normal ship armor, barely scratched the human vessels. The human ships were built to survive in the hostile environment of Earth's orbital space, where debris moved at incredible speeds. They were overbuilt by galactic standards, absurdly overbuilt. Meanwhile, human weapons tore through Krath shields like they weren't even there. The first Krath ship exploded within seconds, then another, then a third. On the bridge of his flagship, the Krath commander stared in disbelief. What are those ships made of? He demanded. No one had an answer. Below in the underground shelter, the Lakesh watched the battle on their sensors. They couldn't see much, but they could see the results. Krath ships dying. Human ships advancing, seemingly unstoppable. They're winning, Willa said, her voice filled with wonder. The humans are winning. Nira watched the display. She should have felt relief. Instead, she felt something else. Awe and fear. These humans were winning a battle they should have lost. They were killing Krath warriors who were supposed to be the galaxy's most dangerous soldiers. What kind of species could do that? What kind of species had she invited to her world? The battle lasted 20 minutes. When it was over, 15 Krath ships were destroyed. The rest retreated, fleeing into hyperspace. The human fleet didn't pursue. They had what they came for. The space around Varus 9 was clear. Doyen opened a channel to the planet. Elder Nira, the orbital space is secure. We're sending shuttles down now. My people will help you evacuate to safe zones and begin pushing back the Krath ground forces. Thank you, Captain, Nira said. Her voice sounded small even to herself. No thanks necessary. This is what we do. The first human shuttle landed an hour later. When the ramp lowered, Elder Nira got her first look at actual humans in person. They were tall. Very tall. Even in the low gravity of Varus 9, they moved with purpose and control. They wore armor that looked heavy but carried it easily. Their eyes scanned the area constantly, looking for threats. The leader approached Nira. He removed his helmet, revealing a young face with kind eyes. Elder Nira, I'm Lieutenant Jiho. I'm here to help coordinate medical aid and evacuation. Nira had to tilt her head back to look at him. He towered over her. His hand, when he offered it for a greeting, was twice the size of hers. She took it carefully, afraid he might crush her delicate bones, but his grip was gentle, controlled. Thank you for coming, she said. Jiho smiled. Like the captain said, this is what we do. Now let's get your people somewhere safe. Aliens sent a S.O.S signal. They didn't expect the Deathworlder FleetSci-Fi. Supply shuttle moved slowly through the upper atmosphere of Varus 9. Ensign Sunwoo checked his instruments for the third time. Everything looked normal. Behind him, Private Yunbi was securing the medical supplies they were transporting to the southern evacuation zone. 10 minutes to landing, Sunwoo said. Yunbi nodded. She was young, barely 21, but she had trained hard at the academy. This was her first real mission, and she was determined to do everything right. She checked the cargo straps one more time. That's when the proximity alarm screamed, "Incoming!" Sunwoo yelled. The shuttle rocked violently as something hit them. Sparks flew from the control panel. Sunwoo fought with the controls, trying to keep them airborne. Through the window, he saw them. Krath fighters. 3 of them coming around for another pass. Hold on. Sunwoo threw the shuttle into a dive. The Krath followed. The second impact was worse. The shuttle's right engine exploded. They were going down. Brace for crash, Sunwoo shouted. The shuttle hit the ground hard. Metal screamed. Systems failed. Sunwoo's head cracked against the console. Blood ran down his face. Next to him, Yunbi groaned. She had hit the wall and her arm hung at a wrong angle. Broken. You okay? Sunwoo asked, though he could barely focus. No, Yunbi gasped. My arm. I can't feel my arm. Sunwoo tried to stand. Pain shot through his left arm. Also broken. He ignored it. Through the cracked window, he could see the Krath landing. 6 warriors, each one massive and armored. They were coming to finish the job. Yunbi, can you shoot? She looked at her broken arm, then at him. Something changed in her eyes. Fear became determination. With my left hand, yes, they grabbed their weapons. Standard Earth military rifles designed for Earth's high gravity and tough materials. On Varus 9, they were probably overkill. Sunwoo hoped that would be enough. The Krath ripped the shuttle door open. The first warrior ducked inside, confident and cruel. He saw 2 injured humans and smiled. This would be easy. He learned his mistake in the next 3 seconds. Sunwoo shot him in the face. The rifle's report was deafening in the enclosed space. The Krath warrior's head snapped back. He fell dead before he hit the ground. The other Krath froze for just a moment. They had expected the humans to be helpless. Injured prey, Yunbi shot the second one. Her aim was off because of her broken arm, but at this range it didn't matter. The bullet punched through the Krath's armor like paper. The remaining Krath rushed forward. They were warriors. They had trained their entire lives for combat. They were bigger, stronger, and more experienced than these 2 young humans. This should have been a slaughter. It was, just not the way they expected. Sunwoo met the first Krath with his rifle. He couldn't shoot because the alien was too close. So he used the rifle like a club. The stock hit the Krath's jaw with a crack. The warrior staggered. Sunwoo hit him again, and again. His broken arm screamed in pain, but he ignored it. On Earth, people learned to push through pain. Earth was a world where stopping meant dying. Yunbi couldn't use her rifle anymore because her good hand was busy pulling a combat knife. A Krath warrior grabbed her, lifting her off the ground. He was going to crush her. She stabbed him in the throat once, twice, 3 times. Green blood sprayed everywhere. The Krath dropped her, gurgling. She landed badly, gasped in pain, and kept fighting. The battle lasted less than 2 minutes. When it was over, 6 Krath warriors lay dead. 2 humans stood among the bodies, bleeding and broken but alive. Sunwoo leaned against the wall, breathing hard. You okay? No, Yunbi said. She was shaking. But I'm alive. Yeah, good work. They were so big. How did we win? Sunwoo looked at the dead Krath. He had been trained to analyze combat situations. He understood what happened here. The Krath had size and strength, but humans had something else. Humans had lived on a world where everything was trying to kill them. They had learned to be efficient, to be brutal when necessary, to never give up even when injured. We're from Earth, he said simply. They weren't. The rescue team found them 20 minutes later. They were shipped back to the Indomitable for medical treatment. But their story spread quickly through the fleet. 2 injured humans had killed 6 Krath warriors in close combat. It became a symbol. Proof that humans could win even in the worst situations. One of the dead Krath had a recording device. It had captured everything. That recording made it back to Warlord Vectar. The Warlord watched the video 3 times. His officers stood silently, waiting for his reaction. They had never seen their leader look uncertain before. But as he watched those 2 young humans fight with broken bones and incredible ferocity, something changed in his expression. They didn't retreat, he said quietly. Even injured, even outnumbered, they fought. They killed trained Krath warriors. They were lucky, one of his officers said. But his voice lacked conviction. No. Vectar rewound the video, watching again as the human called Sunwoo hit a Krath warrior repeatedly with a broken arm. This isn't luck. This is training. This is culture. These humans are dangerous. What are your orders, my lord? Vectar thought about it. He had conquered 17 worlds. He had fought dozens of species. He knew how to recognize a real threat, and these humans were a real threat. Full assault on the Lakesh capital. We need to finish this before more humans arrive. I want every warrior we have on the ground. We overwhelm them with numbers. It was a good plan. It might have even worked against another species. But Vectar had made a mistake. He was thinking of humans as just another enemy. He didn't understand what Earth had made them into. The attack came at dawn. 2,000 Krath warriors advanced on the Lykesh capital, where most of the refugees had gathered. The Lakes were terrified. Elder Nero watched from the shelter's sensors, seeing the massive force approaching. Even with human help, how could they survive this? Commander Taijin stood in the command center, studying the same sensors. He was older than most of the crew, with gray in his hair and scars on his hands. He had fought in 3 wars before joining the Space Navy. He knew what he was looking at. "They're trying to overwhelm us with numbers," he said to his officers. "Standard Krath tactic. They think if they hit us hard enough, we'll break." "What do we do, sir?" asked Sergeant Bora. She was in charge of the ground forces, 200 Marines who were supposed to hold off 2,000 Krath. Taijin smiled. It was not a nice smile. "We show them what happens when you corner humans. We attack, sir. You heard me. They expect us to defend, to hide behind walls and hope we can hold out. Instead, we're going to hit them first. Fast and hard. Sergeant Bora, take your Marines and intercept them in the canyon. Use the terrain. Use the low gravity. Make them afraid," Bora saluted. "Yes, sir." 2 hours later, the Krath force entered the Redstone Canyon. It was a natural choke point with high walls on both sides, the perfect place for an ambush. But the Krath weren't worried. They had scouts. They had numbers. They had experience. What they didn't have was an understanding of what low gravity meant for humans. The attack came from above. Human Marines, using jump packs designed for Earth's heavy gravity, launched themselves from the canyon walls. In Varus 9's low gravity, they flew like missiles. They crashed into the Krath formation with incredible force. Sergeant Bora led the charge. She landed in the middle of a Krath squad, her powered armor absorbing the impact. Before the Krath could react, she was firing. Her weapon, built for Earth's tough materials, tore through Krath armor like cloth. Around her, other Marines were doing the same. The Krath tried to fight back. They were warriors. They didn't run from battle, but this wasn't a battle. This was something else. The humans moved too fast. They jumped too high. They hit too hard. In the low gravity, they were like ghosts, like monsters. One Krath warrior managed to grab a human Marine. He lifted him up, ready to crush him. The Marine head butted him. The Krath's skull cracked. The warrior fell unconscious. The Marine kept fighting. Another group of Krath tried to form a defensive line. Humans just jumped over it. They landed behind the line and attacked from the rear. The Krath formation collapsed. Warlord Vectar watched from his command ship in orbit. He watched his warriors die. He watched them run. He watched the carefully planned assault turn into a massacre. And he understood finally what he was facing. Humans weren't just another species. They were apex predators from a nightmare world. They had evolved in hell, and it had made them into something terrifying. "Recall all forces," he ordered. "Immediate retreat, my lord?" "Now," Vectar roared. "Get our warriors off that planet now." The Krath forces retreated in chaos. They left behind their equipment, their wounded, their pride. They just ran. For the first time in their history, the Krath ran from an enemy. In the Redstone Canyon, Sergeant Bora stood among the carnage. Her armor was covered in green blood. Her Marines were checking for survivors and securing the area. She opened a channel to Commander Taijin. "Mission accomplished, sir. The Krath are in full retreat." "Good work, Sergeant. Any casualties on our side?" "Minor injuries only." "Nothing serious. Excellent." "Return to base." Bora looked at her squad. They were laughing. Actually laughing. After a battle that should have killed them all, they were making jokes and clapping each other on the back. It was a very human thing to do. Aliens sent a SOS signal. They didn't expect the Deathworlder fleet. The news spread through the galaxy faster than light. Within days, every civilized world knew what had happened at Varus 9. The Krath Empire, undefeated for 50 years, had been beaten by a species no one had taken seriously. Video footage circulated through every network. Humans jumping impossible distances. Humans fighting with broken bones. Humans laughing after battles that should have killed them. The galaxy was talking, and what they were saying was filled with fear. Ambassador Minji sat in her quarters aboard the Indomitable, reading through diplomatic messages. Most were from species she had never heard of, all saying essentially the same thing. "Congratulations on your victory. Please stay away from our space." She understood their fear. Humans had revealed themselves as something unexpected. For years, Earth had been quiet, keeping to themselves, exploring slowly. Other species had assumed humans were just another peaceful race joining the galactic community. Now they knew different. Captain Doyen entered without knocking. They had worked together long enough to skip formalities. We're being summoned to a galactic council meeting. When? 2 days. They want to discuss the Varus 9 situation. By discuss, you mean they want to lecture us about using too much force? Doyen smiled grimly. Probably. The Krath were committing genocide and no one did anything. We stopped it and now we're the problem? Welcome to galactic politics. Minji stood and straightened her uniform. Fine, let's go talk to the council. But I'm not apologizing for saving lives. The council chambers were located on a neutral station called Unity Point. It was designed to accommodate dozens of different species, with varying gravity, atmosphere, and temperature zones. Minji and Doyen arrived in their environmental suits. The council had decided to hold the meeting in standard galactic environment, which meant low gravity and thin air. Perfect for most species. Uncomfortable for humans. The council was already assembled. 15 species, each represented by their ambassador. They sat in a semicircle looking down at where Minji and Doyen stood. It was meant to be intimidating. Minji had been in worse situations. The council speaker, a tall, thin being from the Quarren species, spoke first. His voice was translated instantly into dozens of languages. Ambassador Minji, Captain Doyen, thank you for attending. We wish to discuss the recent events at Varus 9. Of course, Minji said politely. What would you like to know? Your actions were extremely aggressive. The Krath Empire is a recognized sovereign state. By attacking their forces, you have committed an act of war. Minji felt her temper rising but kept her voice calm. The Krath were slaughtering civilians. The Lakesh sent a distress call that was heard by 27 species. Only 3 responded and only 1 actually came to help. That was us. Violence should be a last resort, another ambassador said. This one was from a species called the Helixians, aquatic beings who floated in tanks of water. The proper procedure would have been to bring the matter before this council and wait for a diplomatic solution. How long would that have taken? Doyen asked. How many Lakesh would have died while you debated? That's not the point, the Quarren speaker said. The point is that you acted unilaterally and with excessive force. 15 Krath ships destroyed. Nearly 1,000 Krath warriors killed. This is not how civilized species behave. Minji took a deep breath. She had prepared for this. May I show the council something? Proceed. She activated a holographic display. It showed footage from Varus 9 before the humans arrived. Lakesh civilians running from Krath warriors. Children being killed. Homes burning. The council members shifted uncomfortably. This is what was happening while you debated, Minji said. This is what the Krath were doing. We didn't start this conflict. We ended it. And yes, we used force, because sometimes force is the only language that bullies understand. You call the Krath bullies? The Helixian ambassador asked. They are a proud warrior culture with ancient traditions. They're murderers, Doyen said flatly. Dress it up however you want, but what they were doing was murder. And we stopped it. The council chamber erupted in multiple languages. Some ambassadors were angry. Some seemed thoughtful. All were uncomfortable. The Quarren speaker raised his hand for silence. Your passion is noted, but it doesn't change the facts. Humanity has shown itself to be dangerously aggressive. Your homeworld is classified as a Class 12 death world. You evolved as predators. Perhaps you are not suited for peaceful coexistence with other species. Minji felt something cold settle in her stomach. This was what she had feared. The galaxy was going to isolate humanity because they were afraid. Before she could respond, a new voice spoke up. It was Elder Nira. She had been given special permission to attend as a witness. Her voice was soft but clear. May I speak? The Quarren speaker nodded. The Lakesh have standing in this matter. Proceed. Nira's holographic image appeared next to Minji. She looked small and fragile compared to the other ambassadors. I was afraid of the humans when they first arrived. I thought we had called monsters to save us from monsters. But I was wrong. How so? The Quarren asked. Yes, humans are dangerous. Yes, they come from a terrible world. Yes, they are predators. But they are also honorable. They came when no one else would. They fought when no one else dared. And when the battle was over, do you know what they did? No one answered. They gave us medical care. They shared their food. They helped us rebuild. The human called Jiho spent 3 days treating our wounded. He didn't sleep. He didn't rest. He just worked, saving as many lives as he could. The human called Bora organized teams to repair our buildings. These warriors, these predators from a death world, treated us with more kindness than our fellow civilized species showed. The council was silent. You say humans are dangerous, Nira continued. You're right, but they're dangerous to our enemies, not to us. I would rather have one human friend than 100 fair-weather allies who send sympathy but no help. Minji felt her throat tighten. She hadn't expected this. She glanced at Doyen, who looked equally moved. The Quarren speaker seemed uncomfortable. The Lakesh perspective is noted. However, this doesn't address the larger question of whether humanity can be trusted. Perhaps we should ask the Krath that question, a new voice said. Everyone turned. A Krath ambassador had entered the chamber. He was smaller than the warriors, but still imposing. His scales were decorated with rank markers. He moved slowly, carefully, like someone approaching a dangerous animal. Ambassador Vekshin, the Quarren speaker said, clearly surprised. We didn't expect the Krath to send representation. War Matron Shekval sent me to deliver a message, the Krath ambassador said. The Krath Empire wishes to negotiate a ceasefire with humanity. The council chamber exploded in shocked conversations. The Krath never negotiated. They conquered or died trying. Doyen stepped forward. What are the terms? Complete withdrawal from Lakesh space. Reparations to be paid over 10 years. A non-aggression pact with both the Lakes and humanity. And formal recognition that we were in the wrong. The Krath admit wrongdoing? The Helixian ambassador said, shocked. Vekshin's expression was pained. We do. We underestimated humanity. We thought they were weak because they spoke of peace. We were wrong. Humans are the most dangerous species we have ever encountered. Not because they are cruel, but because they are effective. They fight like demons, but act like angels. We cannot defeat such an enemy. We will not try. Minji felt a strange mixture of emotions, pride, sadness, concern. They had wanted to help the Lakesh. They hadn't meant to terrify the entire galaxy. We accept those terms, she said, but we have conditions of our own. The Krath will cease all aggressive expansion. Any species that requests human protection will receive it. And this council will take distress calls seriously, because if we have to come rescue people again, we will. And we won't ask permission first. The Quarren speaker looked like he wanted to argue, but he looked at Elder Nira, standing proud despite her fear. He looked at the Krath ambassador, whose species had never surrendered before. He looked at Minji and Doyen, these humans who had changed everything. Very well, he said quietly. Your terms are acceptable. Later, Minji and Doyen sat in the Indomitable's observation deck watching the stars. The ship was preparing to return to Earth. Their mission was complete. Do you think we did the right thing? Minji asked. We saved a species from extinction. How could that be wrong? But now everyone's afraid of us. Doyen was quiet for a moment. Maybe that's not entirely bad. Fear can prevent conflict. If species know that humans will respond to aggression, maybe they'll think twice before attacking weaker neighbors. Or maybe they'll see us as the enemy. Then we'll deal with it. That's what humans do, right? We adapt, we survive. We protect those who can't protect themselves, Minji smiled. When did you become a philosopher? I've been spending too much time with you. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the galaxy spin around them. Somewhere out there, the Lakesh were rebuilding their world. The Krath were withdrawing their forces. Other species were watching, learning, deciding how they felt about humanity. The galaxy had changed. And humans had changed it, not with conquest or cruelty, but with a simple decision to help when others wouldn't. It was the most human thing possible. Aliens sent a S.O.S. signal. They didn't expect the Deathworlder fleet. 3 years had passed since the Battle of Varus 9. The galaxy had changed in that time, though not in ways anyone had expected. Humans hadn't become conquerors. They hadn't built an empire. Instead, they had done something more subtle and more powerful. They had become the species others called when trouble arrived. Elder Nira stood in the new Lakesh Capital building, looking out at the city below. It was beautiful. The buildings had been rebuilt stronger than before, with human engineering helping to make them more resilient. Human advisors had taught the Lakesh how to defend themselves, not to be warriors like the Krath, but to be strong enough that no one would ever massacre them again. Wayla, no longer young and frightened but confident and capable, entered the room. Elder Nira, the delegation from Earth has arrived. Good. Send them in. Ambassador Minji entered, along with Captain Doyen, who had been promoted to Admiral. They looked older but still carried themselves with that quiet confidence that marked all humans. Behind them came someone unexpected, a Krath warrior in diplomatic robes. Ambassador Vekshin, Nira said, surprised. I didn't know the Krath were joining us. Where humans go, opportunities follow, Vekshin said. His voice was respectful, nothing like the arrogant Krath of 3 years ago. We would be fools to ignore that. They sat around a table, this unlikely group. A Lakesh elder, a Krath warrior, 2 humans. 3 years ago, this meeting would have been impossible. Now it felt natural. Thank you for coming, Nira said. I'm afraid we have a problem. A big one. Minji leaned forward. The Drexen sovereignty. You know about them? We've been monitoring their expansion. 12 star systems conquered in the last year. They're aggressive, well-armed, and they don't negotiate. They sent us an ultimatum, Nira said quietly. Surrender within 30 days or be destroyed. We sent them a message that we're under human protection. They laughed. They said humans are overrated. They said what worked against the Krath won't work against them. Doyen and Minji exchanged looks. How many ships do they have? Doyen asked. Intelligence suggests at least 200 warships. Maybe more. They're not like the Krath. They don't rely on warrior culture. They use advanced technology and overwhelming numbers. So they're dangerous, Doyen said. Very. Which is why we're calling a council, not the official Galactic Council, which will debate for months. We're calling the species who matter, the ones who will actually fight. Over the next week, delegates arrived from across the galaxy. Some came because they were directly threatened by the Drexen. Others came because they had seen what humans could do and wanted to be on the right side of history. The meeting room filled with species of all kinds. The Helixians sent a representative, their water tank wheeled in by assistants. The Koran came, their methane-breathing ambassador encased in his environmental suit. Dozens of smaller species, the ones the galaxy usually ignored, sent delegates. And surprisingly, the Krath sent a full war council. Minji addressed them all. 3 years ago, the Lakesh sent a distress call. Most of you ignored it. Some of you sent sympathy but no help. We came because it was the right thing to do. Now the Drexen sovereignty is threatening to do to other species what the Krath tried to do to the Lakesh, but this time it's worse. The Drexen don't want to conquer. They want to exterminate anyone who won't serve them. So we're asking, what are you going to do about it? The room erupted in conversation. Arguments in a dozen languages. Finally, the Quarren ambassador spoke. With respect, Ambassador Minji, the Drexen have 200 ships. Even with humanity's impressive military, that's too many. You're right, Doyen said. If we fight alone, we'll lose. But we're not alone, are we? He looked around the room. One by one, delegates began to speak. The Lakesh will fight, Nira said firmly. You taught us to defend ourselves. We won't be victims again. The Krath offer 100 ships, Vekshin said. We have learned from humans. We know now that strength means protecting the weak, not exploiting them. A small insect-like delegate stood on its chair. The Terran hives offer 30 ships. Small, but fast. The Helixians will contribute medical support and logistics. Their ambassador bubbled through his translator. One after another, species pledged support. Some offered ships. Others offered supplies or intelligence or technology. When the count was finished, they had 140 ships committed. Still outnumbered, but not helplessly. It's not enough, the Quarren said. We're still badly outnumbered. Then we'll be smarter, Minji said. Humans didn't survive on Earth by being the strongest. We survived by being the most adaptable. We can do the same here. You have a plan? Nira asked. The beginning of one. But I need to know, are we all committed? Because once we start this, there's no going back. The Drexen will see this as a declaration of war. Silence filled the room. These species were peaceful by nature. War terrified them, but so did the alternative. Slavery, extinction, a galaxy where the strong devoured the weak without consequence. I'm in, Nira said, as are the Krath. Vekshin added. Slowly, every species in the room agreed. The alliance was formed. The Drexen sovereignty heard about the alliance and laughed. Their supreme commander, a being called Drextor, sent a message to the coalition. You think your little alliance frightens us? We have conquered 20 worlds. We have never lost a battle. Your human protectors are nothing special. They beat the primitive Krath, that proves nothing. Face us and you will all die together. The message reached Earth's Naval Command. Admiral Hygen, now in charge of all human military operations, read it 3 times. Then she smiled. Idiots, she said to her staff. They think we're just lucky. They think we won 1 battle and now we're overconfident. They have no idea what's coming. What are your orders, Admiral? Asked Commander Tajin, now her second in command. We go to war. But not the way they expect. Get me every tactical expert we have. Get me xenobiologists who understand the Drexen. Get me engineers who can modify our weapons. And get me Sergeant Bora. I have a special job for her. The Coalition fleet gathered at the Threshold Gate, a massive hyperspace junction that connected 3 sectors. If the Drexen wanted to advance, they had to come through here. It was the perfect place for a stand. The human ships formed the core of the fleet, 40 warships, including the Indomitable. Now Admiral Doyen's flagship. Around them, the Allied ships took positions. Krath cruisers, Lakesh science vessels modified with human weapons, Terran scout ships, Helixan support carriers, and dozens of others. It's beautiful, Wela said to Elder Nira. They stood on the bridge of the Lakesh command ship, watching the fleet assemble. So many species working together. It is, Nira agreed. But it's also terrifying. If we lose here, the Drexen will destroy us all. Then we won't lose. Nira looked at her former assistant, now a ship captain in her own right. You sound like a human, Wela grinned. Thank you. The Drexen armada arrived like a dark cloud. 200 ships, each one bristling with weapons. They were larger than the human ships, more advanced. The Drexen had been building their military for a century. They knew they had the advantage. Drextor's face appeared on every screen in the Coalition fleet. He was humanoid with pale blue skin and cold eyes. This is your last chance. Surrender now. And some of you may survive as workers in our empire. Fight and you all die, Admiral Doyen responded. This is Admiral Doyen of the United Earth Space Navy, commanding the Coalition Defense Fleet. You want to fight? Come and get it, so be it. Destroy them all, the Drexen fleet advanced. The Coalition fleet held position. It looked like suicide. The Drexen had every advantage. Numbers, technology, experience. But they didn't have human creativity. The battle began with the Drexen firing long-range missiles. Thousands of them. A coordinated strike meant to cripple the Coalition fleet before close combat even began. It should have worked. Instead, the Terran scout ships, small and fast, intercepted the missiles. They didn't destroy them. They redirected them. Using technology shared by human engineers, they hacked into the Drexen guidance systems and turned the missiles around. The Drexen fleet found itself dodging its own weapons. Drextor stared in disbelief. How did they do that? Sir, the humans have been studying our systems. They found vulnerabilities we didn't know existed. It doesn't matter. We still outnumber them. All ships close to combat range. The Drexen fleet rushed forward. The Coalition fleet split apart, each group of ships moving in a different direction. It looked like panic. It looked like the Coalition was breaking apart under pressure. It was a trap. The Drexen ships chased different groups, splitting their superior numbers. Each group found itself facing different tactics. The Krath ships used their warrior culture, turning what humans had taught them into brutal efficiency. The Lakesh ships, nimble and quick, dodged attacks and struck at weak points. The human ships did what they did best. They fought smart. They fought mean. They fought to win. Sergeant Bora, now leading a special operations team, executed the plan's most audacious part. Her team boarded a Drexen command ship using stealth shuttles. They fought through corridors, taking damage but never stopping. Bora led from the front, just like at Varus 9. They reached the ship's central computer,